Did you know that you have different types of fat stored on your body? Some of it's actually dangerous and some of it's healthy. I'm going to show you which fat's dangerous, how to get rid of it, and which fat's healthy and how to get more of it. Let's go ahead and first talk about liver fat. And newsflash, this is not a healthy kind of fat. This is a fat that actually impairs your liver function. Now, liver fat, also known as fatty liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver as well, this is a type of fat that's actually going to cause metabolic dysfunction. And this is going to be things like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, insulin resistance, all of the bad things you don't want. And so it's going to cause that metabolic disorder, but also hormonal disorder as well. Because your liver plays a critical role in hormone balance, you're going to find that when you start developing a lot of liver fat, then your hormones follow a destructive path as well. Now, I'll tell you a little tip about this liver fat. One of the worst things that you can consume for it is going to be fructose. Okay, this is a sugar that is directly processed in the liver and is most likely to actually cause more liver fat. And I'm not talking about from eating fruit. I'm talking about from drinking soda and prepackaged foods, and specifically that high fructose corn syrup. Let's go ahead and move on to visceral fat, okay? And this is going to be the worst type of fat, okay? This is going to be the fat that actually is around your organs. And this type of fat is largely associated with increased cardiovascular events, okay? All bad cardiovascular problems are going to come from this type of fat right here. It also is associated with metabolic disorders, all the things we just talked about. That's going to be your high blood pressure, your high cholesterol, your high insulin, your high blood sugar. It also is highly associated with inflammation and even cancer and Alzheimer's. There's studies that actually show that if you have a high amount of visceral fat, that you're not only going to be likely to get Alzheimer's, but you're 3 times more likely to get Alzheimer's and even cancer. Now, visceral fat has a really interesting characteristic. If you see somebody who doesn't look like they are fat, as in they don't have a lot of fat on the outside, but yet they have a big, hard belly, this is somebody who has a lot of visceral fat. And I will tell you something very unique about this type of fat too. There's 2 major things that are going to cause this outside of the very standard high carb, high sugar, sedentary lifestyle type of situation. The first is going to be a high stress lifestyle, because what happens is as you have a lot of stress, you have more cortisol that's circulating throughout the body. And that high amount of cortisol is actually going to mobilize fat from the periphery of the body and bring it more internally. Okay, it's going to really take that fat and bring it towards the middle of the body. This is oftentimes why somebody who's under a lot of stress has a hard time losing visceral fat and even fat more in the central area of the body. Then, of course, like all things, age is also going to play a big factor in this. So reduce stress and also make sure that as you get older, you pay a little bit more attention to making sure that you don't get visceral fat. Now, I also want to point this out because it's very important. Visceral fat and this liver fat and the other fat we're about to talk about, the subcutaneous fat, they're highly associated with high sugar diet, high carbohydrate diet, but there's a few other things to pay attention to. One is going to be that you're eating more calories than you're burning, okay? If you are consuming too much food, then that food is transferred into fat and your body is storing it. It also shows that you have very little muscle mass. This is simply because muscle burns fat. It shows you have a very sedentary lifestyle. You're not getting enough aerobic activity. You're sitting around too much and you're not exercising. And it's also a good indication of insulin resistance, because when you have high levels of insulin and high levels of blood sugar, this is what happens. Your body becomes a fat storing machine. So if you want to start reversing this negative trend, then these are the changes you want to start making. Let's go ahead and talk about this subcutaneous fat, and then we'll talk about the good fat. Subcutaneous fat is going to be that fat that's just below the surface of the skin. Imagine you could go grab a handful of belly fat right now, or maybe you can. That's what subcutaneous fat is, associated with metabolic syndrome, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, all the bad things. It also is associated with a lot of bad cardiovascular issues, heart disease, stroke, and as I mentioned, high blood pressure, just like this visceral fat is. And also it's associated with sleep apnea, fatty liver, diabetes, and a lot more disease. So we want to make sure we're reducing this type of fat. I can tell you, if you're looking for something to just pour on a little bit extra beyond the low carb, low sugar diet, also beyond a good, healthy, whole food diet, you can use a specific type of berberine designed to help lower your blood sugar, lower your insulin levels, and also improve insulin sensitivity. Of course, not all berberine is created equal. You have to get the right one in order to solve this problem. I'll put a link in the description below. The thing is about berberine is it works very well, but a lot of it stays right in the gut. You have to get a berberine specifically able to target this issue of insulin resistance and fat accumulation on your body. So I'll put a link in the description below. It's specifically called berberine IR. It's something we use clinically all the time. It works fantastic. I have so many stories of people who start taking this and they lose a ton of fat on the body. It's fantastic. Now let's talk about the good type of fat, and that's the brown fat. This is a fat that is in high amounts in babies and young children, and it slowly diminishes as you age. Now this brown fat will actually burn calories because it's very mitochondrial dense. It actually functions much like a muscle tissue. And now interestingly, there's a way that you can actually increase this brown fat on your body. This brown fat can be increased by doing things like cold plunges or swimming in icing cold water, being exposed to cold temperatures. And as you do that, this brown fat actually increases, which then puts you in a state where you're more likely to burn fat as a result of having more of this type of fat. So this is how you can actually improve your health, by reducing these types of fats, increasing this type of fat, the good fat. I'm Dr. Nick Zarowski. Give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It was a pleasure seeing you in this video, and I look forward to seeing you in this video next.